Hello friend, welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Becky if you are new, and today we've got some big projects we're gonna tackle. We are gonna tackle these strawberries. We need to do a canning project. We're gonna do a food preservation project with this salt. So we're gonna harvest a bunch of herbs and turn it into a delicious herb salt to use throughout the year. I'm gonna use this in my canning project. These are some berries I washed up yesterday that need to be used that I got at the local farmer's market. We have blueberries, raspberries, and strawberries in here. And I'm gonna make a triple berry muffin. I love this blueberry muffin recipe. I'll link this down below. But instead of just doing blueberries, since I have all these berries washed up that need to be eaten, we're gonna make a triple berry muffin. So I should go ahead and get that started before we head outside, because we're gonna be doing a couple big harvests out in the garden. And this muffin recipe requires the oats to soak for about 20 minutes before you actually make the muffin batter. So that'll be perfect timing. We'll get this going first thing. So I'm going to take, I have to double check my recipe, 1 cup of oats and 1 cup of milk. We're gonna let this soak while we run to the garden. I think I'm gonna go ahead and double this recipe because I have enough fruit, and I'll just freeze the extras. We are heading to the Oregon coast this weekend, and so what I'm gonna do is just keep some of these muffins out for us to enjoy. I'm gonna freeze the rest, and then I can bring some muffins with us on our little weekend trip. We're gonna go crabbing and do some fun Oregon coast things. Get this. So I'm gonna go ahead and melt this. And you want this melted, but you don't want it really, really hot. So I'm probably just gonna put it in here for 60 seconds. We're gonna head to the garden, and then we will finish up these muffins when we get back inside. These are gonna be my harvest bowls today. I'm gonna grab a pair of scissors to do the herb harvest with. I also have my dishwasher going. It is almost done with canning jars in it, so that when we get in and we're ready to do our canning, our jars are gonna be washed and clean and ready to go. You don't need to sterilize canning jars anymore. You just need them nice and clean. So I like to run them through the dishwasher right before I use them. So something I did over the weekend is I brought down my pots that I had on my patio with flowers in them, and I brought them to the garden, and I am just absolutely loving it. And now I want all the pots down here. So that's so fun. Oh, I don't know if you can see, but there's a hummingbird, 2 hummingbirds that were just eating out of my snapdragons. I have the pleasure of seeing hummingbirds in my garden. There's also a yellow finch that I can see right now. Super hard. Oop, wrong way. You see that little yellow finch sitting on that trellis up there? So one thing that having so many flowers in the garden this year is doing is it's bringing in so much life to the garden. It's fantastic. But what we're gonna harvest right now are some sugar snap peas. We have been eating on these for a couple weeks now, but I've never gotten enough to bring inside. We just snack on them while we're out in the garden. But I finally think there's enough to actually harvest, and maybe I will make dinner with them tonight. These are one of my favorite things to grow. They're so easy to grow, they're super prolific, and they taste incredible. Every morning we come out here and I have coffee, and we usually snack on these as a family. The first year I ever gardened, I did not realize there was a difference between sugar snap peas and shelling peas. Shelling peas are when you buy peas like in the frozen section of your grocery store, and the outside, the pod of the pea is super fibrous and tough and not enjoyable to eat. Where a sugar snap pea, you eat the peas and the pods. And I did not realize that until after I grew an abundance of shelling peas in my first garden. After that first year, I decided I will only ever grow sugar snap peas or snow peas in my garden because I like being able to eat the whole pod. You get a lot more bang for your buck with how much space you have to grow. It takes a lot of time to shell peas, and you don't get very many peas for how much space it takes to grow them. So I like growing sugar snap peas or snow peas. Snow peas are good too. So I'm gonna go ahead and just harvest as many as I see here. So this is my harvest here. There are a ton more on here. Actually, I see one more I'm gonna harvest, but the ones that I'm leaving on here, I'm gonna let mature a little bit more. And everywhere you see these little white flowers, eventually those are going to be sugar snap peas. Maybe I'll grab that one too. But there's still lots and lots on here, and I will probably come out tomorrow and harvest these. I just want them to get a little bit more mature. I might grab that one. And just like that, this is going to be our vegetable side for dinner tonight. Now we're gonna go ahead and harvest this cilantro. Now that the dahlias are starting to get tall, my hope is that they are going to shade out this cilantro all summer long so that we can be harvesting fresh cilantro for cooking all summer long. But only time will tell if that works. And if it doesn't work, this is my 4th or 5th bowl of cilantro this size. We'll freeze dry and enjoy this. And if that does bolt, I have more cilantro planted here that's very, very young. And I'm hoping that these zinnias will shade out this cilantro this growing season. I had to go grab one more bowl because my cilantro bowl got so full, and we're gonna harvest chives over here. One of my favorite things about having green stalks on my patios is that right there. The hummingbirds are so attracted to them. They are like living hummingbird feeders. All right. Now we've got one more green stalk I'm gonna harvest off, and that's this one right here. Last night I harvested, I had cilantro here, 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 and there, and I harvested that for dinner last night. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take my second harvest of parsley. We've got some Italian, or no, this is curly parsley, and then I have some flat leaf parsley, the Italian flat leaf parsley up here. Hummingbirds love nasturtiums. and they grow really well in green stalks. I'm just gonna harvest some parsley.
Greenstock is celebrating their 10th anniversary, and they are having a massive sale. Started July 2nd and it goes through July 11th. The entire website is on sale. I will link them down below if you've been interested in getting a Greenstock or you would like another one. Everything on their site is on sale, and if you use code ACRE, you can get an additional discount.
So that is the harvest that we're gonna do this morning. Now my ultimate goal with this parsley and chives is to turn this into an herb salt, like an all-purpose herb salt that I can use in my cooking all year. So last year I did this, I just made a basil salt and it was fantastic, but it was kind of basil specific. So I wanna make one that's a little bit more all-purpose using chives and parsley. Now that I'm looking at this, I think I want to experiment using some of this cilantro to make a cilantro salt as well. And the rest of it, I'm just going to freeze dry, and you've seen me freeze dry this. I wash it, I pat it really, really dry, I throw it in the freeze dryer, and it takes about 12 hours, and then it's freeze dried. I wanted to get out there and get that cilantro before the heat of the day set in because I was worried that it could bolt. I wanted to chop it way back down so that it was underneath those dahlias and it could be shaded out. So I'm gonna preheat the oven now to 425 so that we can get these muffins made up. And these can be baking while we make our salt. Get my oats in the mixer. I'm gonna add the butter that we melted and cooled. I'm gonna add the honey so it slides out of this measuring cup really easy. So I just added my flour, baking powder, baking soda, salt, and some vanilla, maybe a little bit more in there. Now that it's almost fully mixed, we're gonna stop the mixer. So these came together very quickly. We're not quite 100% done, but I like to kind of finish mixing my muffin batter by hand. And we're gonna take these beautiful raspberries that need to be used, and I'm gonna get them into this muffin batter. So these are already washed. There's strawberries in here too that I'm going to go ahead and just throw over here. I was gonna make strawberry, raspberry, blueberry, but I think I have enough raspberries that need to be used that I'm gonna go ahead and skip the strawberries. I think what I can do now is just go ahead and these are raspberries and blueberries I bought at the farmer's market over the last weekend. My blueberries have probably another month or so before they're going to be ready to harvest. And my raspberries probably aren't far behind them. So I have this 24 muffin tin. I'm going to oil them very well. Now I'm going to take our beautiful muffin batter, and we're going to get these muffins in these tins. Oh, looks like I forgot a strawberry. And that's a whole strawberry, so I'm going to take that out. So these are gonna go in the oven and bake until they're done. While those are baking, this is the perfect time to go ahead and tackle our herbs. So before we can turn them into our herb salt, we need to wash them and dry them really, really well. So I'm just gonna grab out a bunch of towels. I'm gonna get my salad spinner out. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and wash the sugar snap peas. We're gonna have these for dinner tonight, so I might as well go ahead and just wash them up now so that they will be ready for dinner. So I'm just gonna use the same colander I washed the berries in. These will be gone tonight. We will eat these with dinner and there will be absolutely no leftovers. Our side for dinner is almost done. Now I am going to use my salad spinner to wash these herbs just because I want to get them as dry as possible. If I was just washing these and then I was going to eat them with dinner tonight, I wouldn't go through the effort of making my salad spinner dirty. But because we're going to preserve them, I want to make sure they're really, really dry. So we're going to wash the parsley first. I've already freeze dried a round of parsley. I probably will only freeze dry 1 or 2 more rounds of parsley because the parsley in the garden, I don't worry about it bolting on me, and it's very cold hardy. So usually I can harvest parsley in November. Usually the beginning of December is when I have to, or when my parsley dies back. Okay, spin this. Usually like to do this twice. Now I'm gonna wash my chives, and my chives have some not the most beautiful chives in here. So I'm gonna go through and actually pull out the kind of shrivelly ones, and I'm just gonna grab the nice green chives. I'm gonna break the tops off that are kind of brown and wilty. My chives and parsley are done for our salt. I think what I'm gonna do is go ahead and lay another towel on the top and kind of pat them dry. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just wash my cilantro. You've seen me do this. I'm gonna wash it the exact same way I just washed these. And I'm gonna get the cilantro drying too so that I can get those in. Those smell incredible. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the oven off. I just turned the freeze dryer on to cool. We've got all the herbs washed up now at this point. I'm okay if this just sits here and dries a little bit longer. The freeze dryer needs to cool for 15 minutes before I can put this cilantro in the freeze dryer. But we're gonna use some of this cilantro to make cilantro salt. We're gonna make our chive salt and our parsley salt now. So I'm gonna use my food processor to do that. We're gonna do the salt next because that's not gonna take very long, and then we can check this off the list. And then I can kind of clean some counter space and we can tackle these beautiful strawberries. So the muffins are out of the oven. I put them on the cooling rack and a few of them have already been snagged because they are absolutely delicious. Those raspberries in it add a little bit of tartness, which is pretty yummy. So I'm gonna slide these berries aside and we're gonna get going on our salt in our food processor. To make herb salt, you only need 2 ingredients, salt and whatever kind of herbs you want. I've only ever done this with basil. It was absolutely delicious. It took me, I think, like 3 or 4 months to actually start using it. And then once I did, I went through it very quickly. So I'm gonna use this Celtic sea salt because the granules are very, very large. And because we're gonna be food processing them, I want them to start out a little bit larger so that I still have some texture to them when I go to use them. The ratio I'm gonna go with to make this salt is a 1-to-1 ratio. So I just grabbed out a larger measuring cup that I have, and this does not need to be precise. I am just going to chop this down a little bit so I can get a little bit better idea of how much chives we're working with here. We're basically making like a chive salt or an onion salt. I'm gonna say that is about 1.5 cups. I get this in my food processor. I'm actually gonna pulse this just a little bit. Now I'm gonna measure out 1.5 cups of our salt. This is why I wanted to use a chunkier salt. And that is our first salt done. There's a couple ways you could finish that salt. And I did it this way last time and it worked beautifully. All I did was let it air dry. It took about 2 days to air dry. A lot of recipes online say that you should put them in your oven on the lowest setting or in a food dehydrator and dehydrate them. It worked really well with the basil to let it air dry because basil and even chives had the tendency to turn brown in the drying process. So I wanted it to be a really low and slow, gentle dry. So I'm just gonna let it air dry again this time and we'll see how it goes. I just stirred it every time I walked by. I would leave a little spatula next to it and I would stir it and it worked out perfect. I might end up mixing these together and making a mixed herb salt, but I wanna do them separately so that I can decide later if I wanna mix them together. What I'm thinking is that these salts will be kind of just an all-purpose salt for me to use in my cooking to add a little extra flavor. Obviously not in baked goods, but in any sort of savory application. So this is the parsley going in. I'm gonna do roughly equal parts. There's our parsley salt. I have a feeling I will mix these together just so that I have like well, maybe not the cilantro one, but I'm pretty sure the parsley and the chive one all mixed together. That way I can kind of have an all-purpose salt. But one reason why I think it's good that I'm doing these separate is I can see how these react to this process. So I've done basil like this, had no problems. So if one does something weird in this process, I'll know which one it is, versus if I had blended them all together and mixed them all together, I wouldn't know, say one of them turns kind of brown and off-putting color. I want to know which one that is for future projects. So now I'm going to clean this mess up and we will tackle these strawberries. So I have enough cilantro here to probably do 2 freeze dryer loads worth of cilantro. And so what I'm gonna do is I've got 1 load of cilantro ready for the freeze dryer. That's gonna go in just a minute. This cilantro I'm gonna pop in my fridge, and we're gonna have tacos for dinner tonight. So I'm gonna make some different, we've got some tomatoes that I got at the grocery store that need to be used up. I have some avocados that need to be used up. So I will go ahead and use a bunch of this for tonight's dinner. But whatever we don't end up eating this week, then I will throw this in the freeze dryer after this is done. The cilantro is nice because it's so thin, it only takes about 12-ish hours or so to freeze dry. And I have found I can get cilantro to last a really long time in my fridge if I roll it in a paper towel, whether that's homegrown or store-bought. And then I put it in a bag and store it in the fridge just like this. And I still have about 1 more roll that I can make that big. Pretty incredible. This is by far the most cilantro I have ever grown in my gardening journey. So into the fridge this goes. The freeze dryer is going, and I'm just gonna do 1 more thing to these peas to get them ready for dinner tonight. I'm just taking the flour top off, and then we can snack on these and I can make them for dinner. So I'll just put these in a bowl, throw these in the fridge, and I'll cook these up later tonight for dinner, if they don't all get eaten before that. So the next project we're gonna tackle are these berries, and we are going to turn these strawberries into jam that we're gonna can and put on the pantry shelf. This is a full flat of strawberries that I got from a local farmer at my farmer's market. They are absolutely incredible. This flat was heaping full. The farmer was so generous when I bought it, he dumped a couple extra pints of strawberries just to make this a very heaping flat of strawberries. And I was very appreciative of that. But we've been enjoying our fill of fresh strawberries. And the rest of them, or at least 2 batches worth, we're going to turn into strawberry jam to put on the pantry shelf. So we're gonna can this jam. And I'm gonna follow the recipe that is in my favorite pectins box. I use the pink box because it is a lower sugar jam recipe than the one in the yellow box. And we already once this year made freezer jam, which is a not cooked jam. So it's got a very fresh strawberry flavor. You throw it in the freezer and then you thaw it before you want to use it. I like to have both freezer jam because I love the flavor of freezer jam, but you have to thaw it first. So I like to have the shelf stable jam as well. So I'm gonna want to try to get 2 batches of the jam that we're going to put in the canner and can it. Okay, we need 6 cups of crushed strawberries per recipe. So I need 12 cups of crushed strawberries. So I don't know if I have 12 cups, we might only be making 1 batch. And if that's all I can make with this, that's fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut the tops off, and then I'll wash them after I cut the tops off. You can do a lot of things with these tops. You can make them into vinegar, which I have done before, and I've heard you can actually make strawberry lemonade concentrate with the tops. But what I'm gonna do, because I have a lot of strawberry lemonade concentrate in my freezer already, I'm gonna give those to the chickens, and the chickens are just gonna enjoy a beautiful treat. So I cut the tops off half of the flat that I have left. I'm gonna go wash this and we're gonna crush this. I then will be able to measure out how many strawberries we have and if I need to crush more. I don't wanna crush more than I need for the jam because whatever I don't end up using for the jam, I'll cut the tops off and freeze, or we'll just eat fresh. I'll keep them in the fridge and we'll eat them fresh. We like ours a little bit chunky. This is gonna cook down and break down as it cooks. So I think I'm gonna call that good, and I'm gonna go ahead and measure out how much we have here. I'm gonna measure it out into the pot that we are going to cook the jam in. That was 8 cups. I'm gonna go ahead and top more berries until we get to our 12 cups that we need. Now that I have my pre-measured berries, I'm gonna go ahead and get these on the stove. And the next thing we need to do is measure out our sugar. I'm doubling this recipe, so I need 8 cups of sugar. 5, 6, 7, and 8. And what I'm gonna do is take a half a cup of sugar that I pre-measured out, and I'm gonna put that in this bowl. I'm gonna take my 2 pectin packages, open those up. Put those in there. And I'm gonna whisk this together. Now I'm gonna pour this into my pot, and we're gonna let this cook, and this is gonna come to a rolling boil. One thing to note is when you make jams or jellies, it is recommended to never, ever, ever double the recipe. I always double my strawberry jam recipe and I never have had a problem. So if you are new to jams and jelly making, I've actually never made jelly before. I think jelly, it's a little bit more finicky than jam, but if you're new to it, do not double the recipe like I am doing. I've been doing this for years and years and years, never had a problem, so I just double the recipe. So we're gonna let this come to a rolling boil. While this is coming to a rolling boil, I'm gonna get my jars out and start cleaning up my mess. I like to add a little bit of salt to my jam to counterbalance the sweetness. While I'm waiting for my fruit to come to a boil, I'm gonna go ahead and get my canner. This is just a large pot I have. You can use any pot you have as a water bath canner. So I'm putting warm water in there, and then as soon as that's full, we're gonna get this on the stove. And now everything's set, I can finish the dishes. So at this point, I can't stir these bubbles away. So what I'm gonna do, we're gonna pour this sugar in here. You do not wanna walk away from this. I'm gonna stir this. It's gonna stop boiling because that sugar is gonna drop the temperature of this mixture, but it's gonna quickly come back to a boil. And then once it comes to a rapid boil, I'm going to set a timer for exactly 1 minute. So at this point, when I stir this, I can't stir the bubble away. So I'm gonna set the timer for 1 minute. If you were with me when I made the freezer jam, you can now see the difference between a cooked jam and a freezer jam. A freezer jam is a lot fresher. It has a lighter taste because you don't actually cook the fruit. This fruit has been cooking for probably about a half an hour now. By the time we started the cooking process up until it's gonna be done boiling, it is almost there. It definitely has a richer and kind of more concentrated flavor versus the freezer jam is a lot fresher and lighter because the fruit is raw basically. So there's definitely just differences between the two. I like both of them. I think my preference is probably, well, I don't know, they're both really, really good. They're just different. So I'm glad that this year I was able to get both put up. I think we are there. Let me check my phone. It's gonna splatter. Yes, okay, so I'm gonna turn the stove off. I'm gonna bring this over here very, very carefully because this is obviously molten sugar. I have my canner heating up because this is hot jam going into jars. And so I want my water that I'm gonna get a bigger scoop than this, that I'm gonna put these jars in to be about the same temperature as the jars. And I'm gonna go ahead and scoop this jelly into here. Because this jelly was cooking for so long, those bigger pieces of fruit that were in this pot broke down quite a bit. We do like some little chunks. That's why I kind of start with some bigger ones so that by the time it's done cooking, you still have a little bit of texture. But you could throw those berries in a blender if you wanted them really, really fine. I have a little extra that's not gonna fit into a jar, and I have this little jar of freezer jam that's in my fridge, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put this jam in there and stick this in the fridge for use this week. We got 2, 4, 6, 7 pints and 1/2 pint of strawberry jam, plus probably another, well, I guess I think this is a 1.5 pints, plus another 1/2 pint or so. So this is fantastic. So one of my most popular gifts that I gift at Christmas is my strawberry jam. And so I'm really glad that we have more for Josh and I, plus I should have enough now at this point between this and the freezer jam that I made to be able to gift some of it this holiday season. So I'm gonna get this in the canner, or this is just a big stock pot. It's a 30-quart stainless steel stock pot. This is probably one of my favorite cooking utensils or pots. That it was actually a gift that I got in the mail, and I love it for this time of year because this is going to be used all tomato canning season to make a lot of marinara sauce, which I am currently completely out of. So I'm gonna get these jars in this water bath canner. I'm gonna make sure there's at least 1 inch of headspace covering the jars. I'm going to put my lid on, and I'm gonna have this come up to a rolling boil. This is gonna boil for 10 minutes, and then I will turn the stove off. I'll let the kind of water cool off for about 10-15 minutes, then I'll take the jam out of the jars and put them on a towel. Today we were able to get a ton of blueberry raspberry muffins made. I guess these have oatmeal in them too. 3 different beautiful herb salts. Probably a year's worth of cilantro at this point, going in the freeze dryer, and a bunch of strawberry tops that the chickens are gonna thoroughly enjoy. I could have turned these strawberry tops into maybe something that we would eat, but I enjoy giving my chickens treats on a regular basis. So that was some enjoyment for me and some enjoyment for them. Oh, see, you can see some moisture coming out of the cilantro onto the parchment paper. So every couple, well, I don't know, maybe a few hours that I walk by, I'm just gonna take some sort of spatula and mix the salt so that it's drying evenly. This is our parsley one. I don't care if they mix just a little bit. It has been 5 days, I think, since we made this salt. It's just been sitting on my counter and I've been stirring it. We actually went out of town over the weekend and I came back to perfectly dried salt. I love how the air drying really preserves the color of the herbs. So what I'm gonna do now is go ahead and get it jarred up so that we can start using it. I've actually been using it in my cooking since I got home from the coast. I've got 1, 2, I need one more jar. 3. So this first one here is cilantro. This one is the chives. And these jars are not big enough. Makes sense because I used about 2 cups of herbs and 2 cups of salt, give or take. I'm gonna go ahead and just reuse a canning lid and get a ring on these and put them away, and I'm gonna start using them. I was thinking about mixing some of the 3 together, the extra that didn't fit in those pint jars, but I think I wanna wait until the end of the season because I'm gonna be making more basil salt because I'm completely out of that. And then I'll probably, once I have all the salts made that I wanna make for the year, work on making some different blends. And so I don't want to start blending any of these until I have all of my salts done. So I will go ahead and put a couple videos here if you want to enjoy between now and the next upload. We got a lot of stuff done. I don't even remember all the stuff we got done because it was like 5 days ago. I know that this is evidence that something was done. Pretty sure we did jam the same day we did the salt. I have 4 flats of raspberries I just purchased from my local farmer, and so that is what I'm getting ready to work on next. I've got 4 or 5 recipes we're gonna be making. So if you're new, please consider subscribing if you wanna see how we're gonna make raspberry curd, raspberry cheesecake brownies, raspberry infused vodka, raspberry jam, and I'm pretty sure one more thing. So thank you for being here. If you've been here before, thank you for taking time yet again out of your day to spend time with me. I greatly appreciate every single one of you, and I can pop a couple videos here. You can go enjoy between now and my next upload. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friend.